Well, hello again. Great to have you back watching. For those of you who are sick of me, I apologise. You won't need to see me for much longer though. Just a couple more chats. For those of you who are getting value from our conversations, I'm delighted to once again have your attention. Today, I'm going to be talking about something linked to our previous chat, which was on the importance of framing. Remember, framing is how we think about a certain thing. You might remember me describing how framing involves higher level and top-down thinking. What about lower level and bottom-up thinking? That's what today's chat is all about. It's something I like to call the colour of emotions. Now, lower level and bottom-up thinking. These phrases are a little bit misleading. You will be forgiven for thinking that they signify lesser importance or even something less complicated than what I talked about last week. Lower level and bottom-up thinking are certainly neither less important nor less complicated than what I talked about last week. Lower level and bottom-up thinking refers more to how we share this type of brain processing with our fellow animal species. Compared to what we chatted about last week, lower level and bottom-up thinking has a more automatic effect in our experience, whereas framing is typically more deliberate. You might remember me saying that framing, in other words, higher level and top-down thinking, is something that we can intend to do. It is a deliberate process that we are usually consciously aware of. Typically, we choose the manner in which we frame information. In contrast, lower level and bottom-up thinking is usually unintentional. It is a typically involuntary process, one that is often outside of our conscious awareness. It is usually unconscious. This lower level and bottom-up thinking I'll be chatting about is something I like to call the colour of emotions. Let me describe it another way. For this description, I invite you all to close your eyes. Imagine yourself looking out of the biggest window in your house. You're noticing all the things in your world that are so familiar to you. You might be gazing upon your garden wall. Maybe there's a big field. Perhaps you see your dog running around like a mad dog. Maybe the family car is parked in the driveway. The sight is familiar. The plants, the trees, the grass, the neighbours' houses. Now imagine somebody puts a pair of blue-tinted sunglasses on your eyes. Your view looks a little different now, doesn't it? Things don't seem exactly the same as they did before. Everything appears to have a slightly different quality, a bluish quality. Now imagine that same person who changed your sunglasses changes them again. Now your lenses have a red tint. Everything seems a little different again, doesn't it? Bit of a reddy nature to your world this time. But most importantly, has the world you are looking out upon changed? No. You can now open your eyes. I like to think of our emotions as a type of lens that colour our experiences. The actual things that we are experiencing are the same, regardless of how we are feeling internally. However, some quality, some element of how we experience these things can change depending on how we are feeling emotionally. We are not thinking machines that feel. Rather, we are feeling machines that think. It's a quote from Antonio Damasio, a famous neuroscientist. Now this may seem counterintuitive, but I think this quote is an insightful description of the human condition, what it means to be human. Again, and let me rephrase it a bit because I don't really feel like we are machines. We are not thinking beings who feel. Rather, we are feeling beings who think. You might also remember Anthony de Mello's quote from an earlier chat. We see the world not as it is, but how we are. The colour of our emotions is a part of who we are in each moment. I invite you to think about an experience that feels different depending on whether you are angry, happy, sad, anxious. For example, how do you react when someone asks you to go to a party when you are feeling each of these different ways? Have a class discussion to share your thoughts. Today I chatted about emotions. I provided an analogy for what I call the colour of emotions. Lastly, I invite you to consider how the colour of your emotions might affect how you see your world. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.